welcome back. You're still watching Cheche, and remember the hashtag to use on social media is hashtag Cheche. Our Twitter handle is @Citizen TV Kenya. We continue with this edition of Cheche. Today we're privileged to have CS Mwangi Kiunjuri, that's Cabinet Secretary in charge of devolution and planning, discussing quite a wide range of issues ranging from maize importation, devolution as well, and we'll get to discuss politics as well towards the end of the show, so do not go anywhere. You have a question for us. I wanted to ask him, before you leave the maize business, as the devolution Cabinet Secretary, you have been going out in the counties distributing maize to people you consider to be starving, or how do you choose where to go? I'm in charge of special programs. Yes, special programs. And one of my responsibilities is to ensure that we live to the constitutional expectations that every Kenyan has a right to food, to be fed by the government, to have food. And there is drought in the country, that nobody can contest that, and the government must respond. But I want to remind Kenyans that it is not the responsibility of government now to mitigate on food crisis. It is squarely the responsibility of the governors. County government are the ones in charge. Agriculture and food security, they are in charge. That one we cannot contest. They are supposed to be in charge. They are supposed, and even money set aside for them to mitigate when there is drought. So by you going around, it means that it's failure by the governors that you're trying to cover? However, you look at the magnitude of this drought. It is true they cannot handle it alone, but the first charge is them. So the government, being a responsible government, the president authorized, and he was very clear, his words: Kiunjuri, no Kenyan should sleep hungry, not Kenyan dying. He did not say no Kenyan should die of hunger, no Kenyan should sleep hungry. And I've lived to that expectation. He has been monitoring. For example, he was in Suro on Saturday, and one of the issues that came up is that they require more food. They did not say they require, there is no food distribution. They confessed that we have been giving them food, but now, because the drought is now biting, they want more food. And that is why tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, I will be in the county. I will go to 8 places where they are seriously affected, and I will be distributing the food. Already, as I told you, Isiro is one of the counties that half of it never received anything. So I expect the Minister for Water to also accompany me, or his officers, so that we can look at water tracking in that county. So we are distributing food. If you ask the other side, they say Kiunjuri is campaigning. Yeah? Because when I go there, when I'm distributing food, differently, will I go there and keep quiet and they are starting distributing food? I'll have to explain to those Kenyans
where the food has come from.
Where the food has come from.
Who has brought them the food?
Two, what the achievement
No. You will have to explain to them who has brought them the food.
The government has provided food subsidy to them.
How much is the budget for this? How much are you spending?
To this far, we have spent about something over 4 billion on food distribution for the month of October, November, December to date. And therefore, in my duty as usual, I have to remind Kenyans of what Kenyans have done. Sometimes I pass through beautiful roads, well-built roads. I have to remind them that this is work of government. I'll go and open a borehole. I'll tell them this one done by the government. I'll pass through a primary school. I issue tablets to the young kids there.
75 days to the election, you do not consider that campaigning?
That's not campaigning. I'm just telling them of the achievements of my good government.
Mheshimiwa, in line with what you are talking about, national drought mitigation, or is it mitigation or management authority? Management authority.
You remember we have the aid drought management, aid drought emergencies. It's a 10-year program, and it addresses on the issue of how we get out this crisis. If you ask those people who criticize this government, they will tell you why give food always, but they don't look at other mitigations.
And when you define drought in a country, you only look at it as if it's just failure for the rains to come. But they are not looking at how do you mitigate this, because it's a fact. We live in it. With the climate change, yeah, you expect these seasons even to worsen. Has the government put into any measures to ensure that it mitigates? Yes, we have done that. And Kenyans must understand that mitigation, drought mitigation, is not about just giving food and water. It's about even laying other structures that can enable Kenyans now to diversify from what they do. That pastoralists can do other activities that can give them a good livelihood. Yeah? That when you don't have to rely on the animals, domestic animals, cattle, camels, goat. What have we done? For example, look at the road infrastructure. We have done climate-proof roads that are resilient to any weather.
Let's go back.
Let me just finish. Only two things. We have opened up, for example, energy. There's power connection all over. Meaning, these people can now take other economic activities. Yeah? If you look at education, yeah, we have subsidies in education. These are other enablers.
We have had all this. My question to you,
it's all the that you're campaigning for.
My question to you is this: you have admitted that food distribution or this business is the business of the governor, the county government.
Yes. But also the responsibility of government. The constitution is very clear.
So,
it's our responsibility.
So, instead of going back where you're going giving food, why don't you give it to the governor and these people and they distribute if you are not campaigning?
We also do that. Some of the governors, we have involved them, but the issue is as a government we have to take our responsibility.
Have you empowered the governors?
There is concurrent functions. There are concurrent functions. These governors are politicians also, and for us we have to come above board. We cannot hold trust that they are going to do, yeah, for example, that we can trust that if I give them food, they are not going to come.
So the national government does not trust county government.
To play them, we trust them.
But you just said you cannot trust them.
We cannot hold trust them. Already, they have the money we have trusted them on with. And anyway, you know, this is another debate that should come up. Where do these governors get money from? They get money from the national government. Sometimes I wonder even whether we should be talking of opposition in this country. Because all of us are in the government.
Could this be informing?
They are managers.
My question is to you. If you are not campaigning, why don't you get trucks of maize and lump to the governor's office? The governor, he has staff all the way to the village and allow them to do it.
It is not just that function of that governor alone. We have other agencies. We have the Red Cross. We have the World Food Program.
Then why do you come in?
We have the committees.
If you are not campaigning, where do you come in to go to the village? Why are you going to zero?
That is my responsibility. I've told you clearly, the constitution is very clear. Even look at, for example, when Otis yesterday came up emphasizing that maize prices should be 90%. Because there is still a window where government can come in and declare when any matter is touching on the government. This is a serious matter. The government cannot sit down and when Kenyans suffer and die, now we start blaming the governors. We cannot do that.
Okay.
As a responsible government, we have to take charge.
Okay.
And that's
gentlemen, allow us to move on to the next issue now that it's already linked to the counties and we're heading there. You say you do not trust the county governments.
Wholly.
This is 4.5 years.
Not the county government.
The governor.
Those governors are also politicians.
Okay.
They are also equally politicians.
Yeah.
So you don't know their inclination. And it's a very dangerous thing. Let me tell you, my brother. You know, we are human beings. Yeah? And at a time like this, you'd see, you look at people whom you think they'll be reasonable enough. But when to come to campaigns, you would give them that food and they'll go and give to their supporters. Even in towns where people are not suffering. But as a government, if you look at my food distribution, like now I'm going to Isiolo, I've asked the leaders to identify those areas. We also have the information, because we have all the information from the National Drought Management Authority. We know where people are really suffering. Those are areas that have got to distribute food.
Okay.
Lastly, when it comes now to issue, now again, in fact, I have an answer for you. Is it politics? Simple question. Who is suffering a lot? You have to look at the mapping, because this is what you analyze every morning. Look at Kirivi. Is it a county that is friendly to the government? Look at Kware. look at Tana River, look at Turkana, the worst 8 counties. So whenever I go distributing food there, definitely I'm distributing food to all Kenyans. And I'm very happy about the way you have handled this situation. And I believe you also...
It could be argued that yes, you're going there with the maize because you need to endear those voters.
Exactly. And yourself. Obviously. And it is happening.
Look at the indicators. Go to the UN today. You know the information you have. You get it from the UN. About the information that National Drought Management will bring here is the same information. They share the information. They are doing their separates. And it's a combination. We all agree these are the areas that are worth it.
Okay. Now, 4.5 years since the advent of the devolution, the whole system of government, we're heading into an election, the very first election since we had this county governments. Where are we, given that now you say you cannot trust some of these governors, it is politics, where are we as far as you are concerned as a person in charge of ensuring that the county governments are empowered enough to actually take charge of some of these dockets, including agriculture and health, that were fully devolved?
Let me first of all, you have to clarify this. You know, sometimes you put something, you emphasize. Like now the emphasis you are putting on, you can trust. Holy, I say holy. Seriously, you cannot. Nobody can be really fully.
So is that Mwangi Kiljuri not trusting governors wholly, or the government not trusting governors wholly?
All of us are suspicious of. You know, Jesus Christ was asked a question. Whether he's holy. He said, it's only God, isn't it? So what Jesus was trying to tell his listeners was that this thing of trust and everything, you leave it to God. You cannot judge others. That is why I didn't emphasize on any governor. For example, there are some of those governors who really tried, and they are from those regions, really tried. But what I said is that they are still politicians. They are made of blood and flesh, and therefore they can fall to temptations. That's all what I was saying.
But now the same can be applied to the national government.
Besides,
it may be
the president is a politician.
Kiljuri may be tempted to go to the areas where he wants Kurat. But maybe let's talk about devolution.
Let's move on to devolution. Yes.
Okay. Again, that is a debate that's been coming up. What have you done? And again, you give credit. Mswahili anasema mugara muwe lakini haki yake. If you look at this government, it is worldwide. It is not a national debate. It's now a debate that is being discussed out there. How Kenya was able to settle down the county government. The speed. For example, if you look at all, this government was able to establish the 47 executive, that is the government, in all the 47 counties. In a record 3 years, we have done that. We ensured that they are in place. We facilitated them financially, because for them to settle, we required money. And Kenyans must ask themselves, because our budget is progressive, and even by the time you are going for the referendum, our budget was already there, because any project that we take is progressive. Our budgets are not static. How was this government able to settle down all the 47 county governments? It did it. Provided all the support required, capacity building in terms of how we run the government, financial matters, how to run, come up with a budget, human resource. We were able to set the 47 county governments. We also were able to ensure that the 47 county assemblies were in place, and they are in place, and they are working. Capacity building, the government and other donor communities, stakeholders came up, and there is a lot of resources going on. The tools, the instruments that we are supposed to use, we ensured by the end of last year, we had put them into place. Look at the issue. For example, devolution policy is already in place. Curriculum, public participation guidelines are in place. Civic education curriculum, it is in place. The 451 county model rules are in place. If you have set up the county integrated development plan, they are into place. Today, the governors who come here, okay, they will talk of or issues that are still not pending. But even if you look at transfer of functions, they have done almost 29%. And
29%?
No. Transfer functions, they have done it. Over 90% have said so. And what is remaining is now those issues that are concurrent, and we are discussing them. Meaning this government was able to settle and ensure that the county government are up.
Yet every time governors stand up to speak, by the Council of Governors stand up to speak, they claim that the government is still denying them funds.
That is even today. That is one aspect.
Actually, they are claiming they need 74 billion from you.
So you are agreeing with me that they are no longer complaining of their comfort, setting up of government. You give credit. What they are discussing today, is it even a percentage of what was expected of this government? And therefore, I'm happy that we are all in agreement. This government achieved that. If you look at those who criticize this government, they wake up in every morning, and the first thing they do is to tell Kenyans that this government is not committed to devolution. Why are we not asking them what was expected of devolution? Issue of resources. Are they coming out to tell Kenyans what the Constitution envisaged? Because the Constitution is very clear that the national government must transfer 15% of the audited account.
Minimum.
That is the minimum. How much are we transferring? We have never transferred less than 30%. We have transferred between 31 and 34%. $1 trillion already has gone to the counties. Sometimes I would say, sometimes governors would argue that we have not given them money. Some of them might be okay, they have used their money, they have gone, we have the Committee of Revenue Allocation, there are the regulations that are in place, which they must adhere to them, isn't it? But equally, some of them are not adhering to them. Sometimes there might be challenges, isn't it? For example, you have debtor strike and everything that can come up and affect the flow of cash to the governors. But the issue here is that this government has lived to the expectation of the people of Kenya.
Have there been any challenges in making sure that devolution works from the national government's perspective?
The challenges are there. Contestation. For example, you see sometimes for voters to settle. You have to wait for voters to settle. And I think what we are fighting with the governors before is that constitution. Even positioning ourselves. And Kenyans, there was a lot of noise up there. Governors attacking minister for devolution, attacking the government. It's just positioning. They are looking for your own space. And sometimes it can even be dangerous. You might think Kenyans people are fighting for for major issues, or it's just small things there. Who took more tea than the other person? Not whether there was tea. Are you getting what I'm driving to? But the fact of the matter is that we have been working with them.
Okay.
Lastly, I ensured that I need to engage them. And you can see this, we engage each other. We call for a meeting, I allow them to then to it, and they allow me to do so. And we have been moving on very well. And that is why the last devolution conference that we held, we are all in agreement. Because what we have been doing, we go to each other's neck. The governors forgot to tell Kenyans what they have done. Some of them have done very well, but they already voted out because they did not have time to tell Kenyans that we are the first government. We have tried to achieve this. We have these challenges, but we did a lot of fighting. Government versus governors, which was not
on transition from county government, local government to counties. There was a lot of properties. Even the transition authority were not able to audit all the properties that were there with the local government, transferred to county government. The same thing will do to appear now, between now and the next year. The transition from the current governors to the next ones.
Yes.
What is going to happen?
That's the issue of asset and liabilities.
Yes.
Again, that was a major debate. Because sometimes you want the asset, but you don't want to carry the liability. That is the issue. Okay. You want to be left with all these assets, but you want the government, the national government, to take the responsibility. But you see, even those county governments that were there before, the local authorities,
yes,
they took the loans knowing that they are going to repay them. Anything they did there with the assistance of government, they knew their responsibilities. For example, look at Nairobi. The infrastructure laid to give Nairobians water. Who laid that infrastructure? Where did we get the money? This money given, loans from World Bank. But now you come in, you are the governor of Nairobi, and you now want to take charge of water. And you don't want the government to get involved in any way or the other. You want to levy, and you don't want to limit to the government, even to pay the loans. To pay the loans. I was the chairman of chairperson of the water, and those were the contestations between us and the county government of Nairobi. And ask a very simple question. Okay, you tell me that this is a county function, but you don't want to pay me then, or you take the responsibility, continue paying the donors. Because if you tell me it's my responsibility, then give me the liabilities. That will be okay. There will be no contestation. Because you want the assets, you also want to take the liability.
What about, we are talking about the future now, what's going to happen now between the transition from the current governors to the next one?
Because, Bonasias, the main concern is that quite a number of these current governors, some of them lost out even in the party primaries. Some of them might not come back. Some of them are not even contesting because they do not have the party certificates that they were looking for, and so they are not coming back for a second term. Yet they are still there for about 3-4 months before the elections, just waiting for the next person to take over. Don't you think that there's a risk that we run that there could be some losses in between, given that there's still no proper or rather express law in terms of transition?
Senator Matangi is trying to sort out that in the Senate, and they don't think he's succeeding.
It's not succeeding because it's very delicate now to raise the column. Definitely, some are demoralized, lost, others are busy campaigning, so it will be very delicate for them to raise the column. But what have we done? We have taken it over. We are looking at the constitutional requirement and the provisions, started a committee with the Intergovernmental Technical Relations Committee, the Attorney General, and we have drafted a gazette notice whereby it will be a legal binding document that will enable us, just as the way we ushered them in, to ensure that we shall transit them. Those who want to misuse funds, they can do it at their own risk.
The government has said that the governors give an audit, give us some report of financial and properties and whatever. And the governor says, no, it's not our business.
Is it a requirement in law?
We are not accounting officers.
Yeah, you're not accounting officers.
Then who is the accounting officer? Let me ask you. If somebody, everything must start somewhere.
But do you think that the lack of legislation to govern this whole period could be a loophole for some people to take advantage and actually loot?
What is not in place is a transition, because definitely some of these governors are still in office. The issue is
all of them are in office until they
will be in office even after. The issue is there is a process that takes place. It will be continuous. Either they are in office or out of the office. The systems are still there. The same way they are audited, they continue being audited. You see, sometimes when I ask them questions, they will answer you and you think there are no laws that exist. They are there.
So it's all about
what you are asking when they leave office. How are they going to transit? Or what you are supposed to put into place. In fact, the most important thing is how do they handle the instruments, isn't it? Hand over the instruments. About whether you misuse funds, the accounting systems are there. There is no way they can say today that because I'm leaving office, I can spend $1 billion or $1 million and run away with it. No way. Because the accounting process is the same. Either you are in office or out of office. When you leave office, you'll be annually accounting, and the procedures are still there.
Earlier on, you mentioned when we were talking about food security that this is mandates given to the county government, but you cannot sit back as a national government and watch Kenyans suffer. What about other responsibilities like health? We have had situations where wananchi are in dire need of health facilities. What has the national government done as far as coming in?
Again, when the government comes in, it's politics, you are undermining us as governors. When there are crises, the government should come in, for example. the president came up with a program, this government, of issuing out facilities to all level 4, level 5 hospitals across the country, 98 of them. Again, it is politics. Governors digging in some of them, no, we are not going to sign for it. These facilities have really helped Kenyans down there. If you look at the costs, for example, diagnostic machines are already there, X-ray machines are there, dialysis machines are there, and Kenyans are really appreciating. But if you ask the governors then and Kenyans, there was hue and cry that government is forcing this program through the throat of governors. The government took charge, its responsibility towards lives of Kenyans, and the program is working.
So then why does it become a crisis when patients are suffering in county hospitals? Why does the government throw this and say that is the responsibility of the county government? Why can't you come in, pay these people so that Kenyans don't suffer?
In the same way you're coming in terms of
same way you provide facilities.
We always take responsibilities. Because if you look at the whole crisis, how did it come to an end? The president himself got involved. Meetings up to midnight. You had frustrations from Trudy himself and others, even religious leaders, on how this situation was handled. Because again, if you look at it, across, you see there was also politics in it, in one way or the other. I don't do that. I said again, I'm not a politician. But if you look at it, it was handled.
I'm yet to be convinced.
And even today,
the way you're moving around the country,
the government has come up clearly, and it has said, pay those doctors. It is avoiding. We are avoiding this.
Okay. Time for another break. CS Mwangi Kunjuri says he's not a politician, but do you really believe that? When we come back, we'll actually examine this issue. Is he a politician really? What is his political ambition? How come he says he's no longer a politician, yet a few months ago he wanted to be governor of Laikipia County? That when Cheche returns.